Hello, this is Emo. Which account do I set as host? There's two resources and development committee accounts.
It was 5,000.
Are you serious?
It was the highest sponsor.
your safe travels here. Let's see. Probably turn off the light.
I think that's my thing on the Oops. Over here.
Okay. Auto to our legislative services staff, good morning, and also to our audience that is here in the Senator Pencil boardroom, auto Inga, to our listeners on the call. Good morning, we are back online via Zoom. Is that Zoom? And
Webinar.
Zoom webinar is what we have because we had a really unfortunate thing happen to us a couple of weeks ago, and we're able to navigate to where we have a webinar type of a setup via Zoom. So I just want to thank our legislative IT department, Mr. Nota, for that. Aro Shi'eya, since we are waiting for one more colleague to have an actual quorum, I'd like to go ahead and just start off in receiving update on the vertical bridge on the tier 1 and 2 co-locators. Mr. Valona, if you can go ahead and take this opportunity to give us an update on the information regarding vertical bridge. And then I believe you also will be given an update on that service line agreement amendments that was discussed. And if you can just give an update to the committee here as well. Aishin Benachet and Vinny will just go ahead and hear those report, letter A report for now. So do you have a PowerPoint presentation or handouts, Mr. Malona, for your presentation this morning?
Yeah. We could do that, or I could just email it to you. guys.
Habashi, go ahead and email it to, Ms. Nakai. Well, we have quorum, so we're gonna kick off. So we're gonna go ahead and I'd like to go, call the regular Resources and Development Committee meeting to order for Monday, August the 25th at 10:31 a.m. And with that, Ramona, could you please take a roll call vote?
Yes,
Or
Madam
roll
Chair.
call, sorry.
Yes, Madam Chair. Roll call for the Resources and Development Committee of the Navigation Council. Honorable Brenda Jesus.
Present.
Thank you. Honorable Brenda Jesus is present. Honorable Casey Allen Johnson.
Vice Chair Casey Johnson is here.
Thank you. Honorable Casey Allen Johnson is present. Honorable Shauna Ann Claw. Present. Thank you. Honorable Shauna Ann Claw is present. Honorable Dane Simpson.
Here.
Thank you. Honorable Dane Simpson is present. Honorable Ricky Nez and Honorable Otto So are excused. So we have 4 members present upon roll call, Madam Chair.
Rashid, thank you for that. Ms. Nelson Otto, going forward to invocation. Colleagues, do I have a volunteer to provide invocation for the meeting here this morning? Honorable Clough?
Nant ani large sa tahigi do the cadence sa tahigi do ko na hayat ibisi temporary do ko after of it ahi large sa tahigi is to even he do les khalid a ko the nan shitas go arayat agit a ko na khasigno do ko na khana na shito Navajo Nation employees eight of anything do les khala in
have Director Helona that will be providing reports, and then we also have staff from Dene College, as they have a legislation here today to waive consideration for some more land for Dene College. And also we have Executive Director, Mr. Leonard Sothi, the Navajo Eastern Land Commission, Yatse Hipishinatani, Ado Inda Eya, Kodon Linigi, LDAs that are present here on behalf of Honorable Danny Simpson and Honorable Lester Yazzie, Office of the Auditor General. We do have OPVP, Ms. Shirley, thank you for being here with us. And we also have Mr. Arthur Hardy, who is assigned to the Resources and Development Committee from the Speaker's Office. Good morning, Adoinda from Intech. Cortasha, thank you for being here as well. Adoinda, who else do we have here? Kindafachi chapter, are you all here? Chapter officials, Ado, Office of the Auditor General, Ms. Janine Jones, good morning. Ado Inda Eya, we have Lydell Davis, okay, Mr. Williams, so then Ado Dr. Cordova, Kodon Vinigi, Tasandado, Kodoshin, Hashim, Sobon Vinigi, Eyayu. I will be part of the discussions here today. So with that, colleagues, I'd like to go further down on the proposed agenda here before us. Item number 3, review and adopt the agenda. So with that, could we please read the proposed agenda into the record, ladies?
Good morning, members of the Resources and Development Committee. Good morning, members of the Resources and Development Committee. This is your proposed agenda for August 25th, 2025. This is a regular meeting. As presiding is Brenda Jesus, Chairwoman, Casey Allen Johnson, Vice Chairman, President Dot Senator John Pinto, Boardroom, Safety on Nation in Mexico. Excuse me. One call the meeting to order, the roll call, the invocation to recognize guests and visiting officials. 3, review and adopt the agenda. 4, review and adopt the journal. None. 5, receive reports. 8, update on vertical village on tier 1 and tier 2 co-locators. Presenters Mike Corona, Director, Division of Natural Resources, update on the service line agreement amendments. Presenter is Mike Corona, Director, Division of Natural Resources. C, proposed capital improvement plan, CIP. Presenters are Candace Yazzie, Interim Division Director, Division of Community Development, with Michelle Peterson, Director of Capital Projects Management Department. D, proposed abandonment uranium mining waste repository site. Presenters are Leonard Associates, Director, Eastern Navajo Land Commission, with Stephen at City Executive Director, Navajo Environmental Protection Agency. The update nature and people first. Presenters are Erica Attorney Department of Justice, and Jason John, Director of Department of Water Resources, says what is also in business A, legislation 0.3-1, B, legislation number 0.4-25, C, legislation number 0.8-25. B, legislation 0189-25, and E, legislation number 0192-25. 8, closed session, written announcements, adjournment. There's going to be Labor Day on September 1st, 2025, and the next meeting is September 8th, 2025. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Question, thank you for that, Ms. Nakai. So with that, colleagues, may I get a motion? Honorable Vice Chair Johnson, may I get a second?
Second.
Honorable Claw, thank you. Do we have any amendments at this time, colleagues? Honorable Chair Simpson?
Thank you, Madam Chair, Ms. RC, and one that we've been to, and what's this in the line here. Madam Chair, I'd like to offer a new one. And I'd like to I'd like to put 3 items on the agenda, under consent, but new business A, we have a director that needs to be put in place. So I'd like to offer number one, where legislation number 014-25 and legislation number 015-25, we have under consent. Madam Chair, I'll be my number one.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Chair Simpson. So colleagues, we have amendment number one. The request is to put legislation 184-25, 185-25 on a consent agenda. Colleagues, may I get a second? Or Honorable Chair Simpson?
I apologize, Madam Chair, I'm sorry, see, with my number one, I'd like to consider that we consider all the legislation before reports.
Okay,
I think mentioned, I'm sorry, see.
Hakushi. Thank you for that, Honorable Chair Simpson. So colleagues, I have a motion, amendment number one is the consent agenda, legislations 184-25, 185-25, and move new business to number 5 and receive reports will be the new number 7, colleagues. May I get a second?
Second.
Honorable Claude. Colleagues, do we have any questions on amendment number 1? Going once, going twice. So with that, I'll take it to roll call vote on amendment number 1. Honorable Vice Chair Johnson, how do you vote?
Vice Chair Quezon Johnson votes green.
Honorable Shawna Enclaw, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Honorable Chair Nez is excused. Honorable Chair Simpson, how do you vote? And Honorable Otto is excused. So with that, colleagues, we have 3 favor, 0 opposed, and chair not voting. Motion carries on amendment number 1. Going back to main motion on accepting the agenda, colleagues, do we have any additional comments or amendments, colleagues? Going once, going twice. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and take it to main motion, roll call vote to accept the agenda. Honorable Vice Chair Johnson, how do you vote?
Vice Chair Quezon Johnson votes green.
Okay, thank you. Honorable Shawna Enclaw, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Chair Nez is excused. Honorable Chair Simpson, how do you vote? Thank you. Honorable Otto is excused. So with that, colleagues, we have 3 favor, 0 opposed, and chair not voting. So we have adopted our agenda for the regular Resources and Development Committee meeting for Monday, August 25th, 2025. Now we are here at Navajo Department of Transportation, and again, I'd like to welcome our relatives that are listening via Zoom. Thank you for being with us, and thank you for returning and listening to some of the issues that the committee is currently addressing. So with that, going on to item number 4, review and adopt the journal. At this time, we have none, colleagues. So going on to item number 5, on item letter A, consent agenda, legislation 194-25 and 185-25. Ladies, if we could read the 2 legislations into the record.
Electronic voice recording or something to say.
Okay, the 2 items under 5, 5 new business, A consent agenda are legislation number 0184-25, proposed committee resolution 25th nomination council 3rd year 2025, introduced by, is that you? Okay, Brenda Jesus, prime sponsor. An action relating to Resources and Development Committee approving a lease and waiving consideration for Gwinnett College for 3.94 acres more or less located within the St. Michael's vicinity navigation of Hatch County, Arizona, being enacted. Section 1 authority pursuant to 2 and C Section 501B2, the Resources and Development Committee of the Nomination Council has the authority to grant
Final approval for all land withdrawals, non-mineral leases, permits, licenses, rights of way, service easements, and bonding requirements on the Napa-Mission lands and unrestricted fee land. This authority shall include subleases, modifications, assignments, leasehold, encumbrances, transfers, renewal, and terminations. Section 256A, Community College seeks approval of the lease for the purpose of constructing, maintaining, and operating a college and for all purposes related to maintaining, operating, and supporting the college, including but not limited to educational facilities, housing, food service facilities, health facilities, recreation facilities, religious and traditional cultural facilities, facilities related to maintaining the physical infrastructure of the college, and installation, operation, and maintenance of utility service equipment once located in the New York area. St. Michael's chapter of the Navigation Reservation B, the lease is being entered into in accordance with Navigation's general leasing regulations found at 16 C section 2301 at C. The lease is attached as exhibit A. C, the lease covers 3.94 acres more or less as described in the survey map and legal description of the leased premises, which are an exhibit to the lease, and herein attached as exhibit B. D, the term of the lease is 25 years with an option for the lease to be renewed with 2 additional 25-year terms. E, the lease value was assessed by the Navajo Nation Minerals Department and was determined to total $109,926 over 25 years. That assessment is attached as exhibit C. F, in accordance with 16 NNC section 2334 F, the college is seeking a waiver of the lease rental since the leases were school-related purposes. The lease attached as exhibit A provides 5 rental. In consideration of the foregoing and the covenants, agreements, terms, and conditions of the lease here, lessee hereby covenants and agrees lesser and lawful money of the United States and annual rental of land in accordance with the provisions of 16 NC section 2334. And only nominal rental is provided for herein because this lease is for educational purposes. G, the general land development department's environmental compliance determination is attached as exhibit D. The cultural resource compliance form is attached as exhibit E. The biological resource compliance form is attached as exhibit F. H, encroachment permissions are attached as exhibit G. I, supporting resolution number DC MAY 2697-24 from the Denver College Board of Regents is attached as exhibit H. J, the proposed lease and supporting documentation have been reviewed through executive official review document number 023692, which is attached as exhibit I. Section 3, approval that A, the Resources and Development Committee of the Nomination Council hereby approves the lease attached as exhibit A with the waiver of consideration, the location and small which are already described on the survey map attached as exhibit C. B, the Resources and Development Committee of the Nomination Council hereby authorizes the President of the Nomination to execute any and all documents necessary to affect the intended purpose of this resolution. All 4 attachments are there. The second item is proposed standing committee resolution of the budget and finance having final authority 25th nomination council 3rd year 2024, introduced by Jermaine Simon, Sean M. Claus, co-sponsored Sharon Mosey, also tracking number 0185-25, election relating to resources and development and budget finance committees, including project changes approved in resolution cap 3518, exhibit B for opinion chapter. So that's the consent agenda, Chair. Thank you for that, Ms. Nakai. So with that, colleagues, there is usually no discussions on consent agenda, so at this time I'd like to request for a motion. Honorable Vice Chair Johnson, may I get a second?
Second.
Honorable Clough. Otto, we don't have any questions on consent agenda. There's usually no questions on consent agenda items. So at this time, I'd like to take to roll call vote legislation 184-25, 185-25. Honorable Vice Chair Johnson?
It-
That's a comment on our RDC advisor, Peggy Nakai, to go ahead and read the legislations electronically. So we just read the title at the beginning, so instead of the whole legislation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chair, for that recommendation to Ms. Nakai. So I know that there is that option for electronic voice recording prior to meeting starting. So that can just be put into the record, Ms. Nakai, so that will alleviate additional minutes that we would have to wait in reading these legislations into the record when it gets to consent agenda. So colleagues, I do have a motion by Honorable Vice Chair Johnson and a second by Honorable Claude. And I'd like to go ahead and take the consent agenda to roll call vote. Honorable Vice Chair Johnson, how do you vote?
Vice Chair Quezon Johnson, what's green?
Thank you. Honorable Joanne Claude, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Chair Nez is excused. Honorable Chair Simpson, how do you vote? Thank you. And Honorable Otto Stowe is excused. So with that, colleagues, we have 3 in favor, 0 opposed, and Chair not voting. So with that, we move on to item letter B, legislation 013-25. At this time, I'd like to go ahead and yield the gavel over to Honorable Claude, as she would like to go ahead and recuse herself on this legislation. So at this time, Shadeja Honorable Claude, I yield the gavel over to you, and Ms. Nakai, you can read the legislation 18325 into the record.
Okay, so do you have a new postpone?
No, she's just, I'm not the co-sponsor. I'm just yielding it over because she wants to recuse herself on that legislation.
So Danny's a co-sponsor.
So Danny's the co-sponsor. I'm sorry.
Okay, this is a proposed standing committee resolution 25th nomination council for year 2025, sponsored by co-sponsored by Danny Simpson. An action and tracking number 0183-25 relating to resources and development committee approving a lease for the Chinle Unified School District for 18.73 acres more or less located within the Chinle chapter vicinity. Nomination of Apache County, Arizona, via enacted section 130. Resources and Development Committee of the Nomination Council has the authority to grant final approval for homeland withdrawals, non-mineral leases, permits, licenses, rights of way, surface easements, and bonding requirements on nomination lands and unrestricted fee land. The authority shall include subleases, modifications, assignments, leasehold encumbrances, transfers, renewals, and terminations. 2 NC section 501B2.
Who is?
Benny.
Okay, section 2 findings, A, the Chinle Unified School District number 24, for the school district seeks approval of the updated lease for lands located in the Chinle chapter of the Navajo Reservation for the purpose of constructing, maintaining, and operating facilities consistent with the principles of the lease premises for a school, which includes housing for teachers and other individuals necessary for the operation of the school district's educational mission. The lease is being entered into in accordance with Navigation's general leasing regulations found at 16 and then see section 2301. At C, the lease is attached as exhibit A-B. The lease covers 18.73 acres more or less as described in the surveying map and legal description of the lease premises, which are as an exhibit to the leasing, and also here and attached as exhibit B. C, term of the lease is 50 years. The lease value was assessed by the Navigation Municipality and was determined to be $146,945.50 over 50 years. The assessment is attached as exhibit C.
D, in accordance with 16 MSC section 2234F, the school district is seeking a waiver of the lease rental since the leases for school and related purposes. E, documents from the grazing official noted there are no grazing committees for that affected area are attached as exhibit D. F, the general and development department's environmental compliance determination is attached as exhibit D. The biological resources compliance form is attached as exhibit F. The cultural resources compliance form is attached as exhibit G. Additional environmental data is herein attached as exhibit H. G. The base supporting resolution from the Chinle chapter is attached as exhibit I. H. The proposed lease and supporting documents have been reviewed through executive official review document number 022972, which is attached as exhibit J. Section 3 approval. A, the resources and development community nomination council hereby approves the lease attached as exhibit A. The location is more particularly described on the survey map attached here to as exhibit B. B, the resources and development committee of the nomination council hereby authorizes the president of the nomination to execute any and all documents necessary to effect the intent and purpose of this resolution. So all of the attachments that are referenced in the legislation are attached, and there are no comments on it, and that public review. That concludes reading legislation 0183-25.
Thank you, Ms. Nakai. Then go on.
Thank you, Ms. Malkai. With that, colleagues, may I ask for a motion? Motion by Vice Chair Casey Allen Johnson. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Second by Madam Chair Jesus. So colleagues, will there be any questions? Vice Chair Johnson, thank you. So with that, we will go ahead and turn it over to the co-sponsor, and I want to say thank you to Shana, Honorable Danny Simpson, for co-sponsoring this legislation. As Madam Chair mentioned, since I am the main sponsor for this legislation, I also sit with Chinle Unified School District, so I will recuse myself from the vote, and I will allow for 20 minutes for the sponsor, and he may go ahead and turn some time over to our agent as well. We do have Superintendent Quincy Nate, and we also have our Chinle Unified School District President, Dr. Paul Guy. So with that, Shana, I will turn the floor over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Potent Chair, members of RDC. Thank you. Looking forward to the session. I'd like to introduce my agent again, Superintendent to the Chinle Unified School District will be Mr. Nate. So, again, thank you, members of RDC Academy, Madam Potent Chair, appreciate this. The session that's before RDC today is that Chinle Unified School District is requesting additional 18.73 acres of land within the Chinle chapter community. And this will not be going before RDC, but the reason why it's going for RDC is the waiver of the lease fee, which is the amount of $1,046,145.50. That's why it's going for RDC, and that's why the waivers. That's why the waiver, we're requesting a waiver of that fee. And again, it's stated in page 2 of the legislation, it does state in paragraph C data. So if the Chinle Unified School District was going to pay this, and basically the administration was approved, but the waiver is why we're before RC data. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and request Potent, Madam Chair, to allow Mr. Nate to speak on this legislation. Sure.
Thank you, Shana. We will go ahead and allow for Mr. Nate to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Pro-Tem Chair Claw, honorable members of the RDC, Shea, Quincy Nate, and Gitchie, Dina Kachi, Slint, Widgie, Bashi, my days, Eugene, Rashi, Sinachine, Rationala, Chinle, Nasha, Chinadel, Nata, Alaja, Badasada. Good morning, members of the RDC. I'd like to thank my co-sponsor, Dan Simpson, for this legislation, as well as our delegate, Shauna Hamclaw. What we're seeking is renewal of our lease. It was at 1.15 acres, but because the properties are contiguous and we've developed, the original lease has expanded to 18.73 acres. And so this is for the lease of the Chimney Community Center site, as well as Mesa View Elementary and Canyon de Chelly Elementary School. The community center is in need of repair, and during the course of the COVID pandemic, we sponsored an alternative care site at the request of the Navajo Nation. And so it was turned into an over 50-bed facility. And since during that process, the Navajo Nation became aware our lease was expired. And so they quit paying rent, they quit paying a number of items that were part of the COVID pandemic that we had agreed to contractually. And so we're in the process of renewing this lease. I'm in the process of renewing all of our district leases, just put that on the radar, the members of the RDC. The second batch of leases are now going through review, administrative review, and I think it's at the Department of Justice at this time. And why is this critical? We recently completed a solar project, $20 million project, and part of that solar project is a rebate of $10 million from the Internal Revenue Service, part of the Obama Inflation Reduction Act. And so we're advocates of that, and so leases need to be renewed. We have provided assurances that we're in a renewal process, so that is still moving forward on the side. And so we're requesting for this space. The intent is to demolish the community center, the long-standing community center since the early 60s. I want to shoot one final basket before you tear it down. But our intent is to rebuild a youth center with a library, community library. Governing board has already approved that project, and we'll be coming before Navajo Nation looking for matching funds for that project, which will include a community library and other ancillary spaces for our students. So with that, I appreciate support for the RDC, and then also my sponsor and co-sponsor for this legislation. Okay.
Honorable Simpson, does this conclude?
Yes, Madam Pro Chair, thank you.
Okay, so we do have a question from Vice Chair Johnson. He is asking if Dr. Paul Guy would like to add any comments or introduction.
Good morning. So y'all can finish on top. I did. So 20 welcome to so introduction today, I will get additions to the co-sponsors, Honorable Claude, and so co-sponsor the Honorable Simpson and Tado, Mr. Quincy Nate, Superintendent, and the RCD members. Yeah, we're just here to get support from your committee there, RDC, to get this legislation approved and moved on with it. We do have other leases that are also pending right now, DOJ's office. So yeah, Dr. Paul Guy, the Trinity chapter president at this time, and then I'm also the president of Trinity West School District. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you. So with that, colleagues, will there be any questions?
No.
No questions? Okay, we will go ahead and call for the vote. Ms. Nakai?
Yes, Pro Tem Chair, roll call vote on legislation number 0183-25. Honorable Brenda Jesus, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Brenda Jesus votes green. Honorable Casey Ellen Johnson, how do you vote?
Vice Chair Casey Ellen Johnson votes green.
Thank you. Honorable Vice Chair Johnson votes green. Honorable Danny Simpson, how do you vote?
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Danny Simpson votes green. Pro Tem Chair, we have 3 members present. I'm sorry, 3 members voting in the affirmative, 0 opposing, 2 members excused. Pro Tem Chair not voting. Pro Tem Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Nelson. So thank you, colleagues, and that legislation has passed. So we appreciate the support, and on behalf of Chile community, we appreciate all of your support, and those that are online. We now have a valid lease. So with that, Madam Chair, I will turn the gavel back over to you. Thank you so much.
Honorable Claw for taking the opportunity and assisting. Otto, thank you so much for asking to recuse yourself as you have involvement with the Chile Unified School District. And with that, the legislation was approved, and we'd like to see a state-of-the-art facility next year. So yeah, Mr. Superintendent Nate. So going forward on to item letter C under new business, colleagues, we have legislation 189-25. Honorable Curtis Yanito. He's the only one who just had what's her name leave. Going once. Honorable Curtis Yanito, going twice. Yeah, but she left. We'll defer that to next Monday's meeting. Okay. So with that, since we don't have Honorable Curtis Yanito, and we just had the young lady leave from Legislative Services to have a co-sponsor, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and forward to this or defer this legislation 189-25 to next September 8th, regular Resources and Development Committee meeting. Next Monday, yeah, we all know it's Labor Day holiday, so we won't have an RDC meeting next Monday. So with that, going on to item letter D, legislation 192-25. And I am the co-sponsor, so Honorable Vice Chair Johnson, I'd like to go ahead and yield the gavel over to you for legislation 192-25. Yeah, I have my agents over there. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, Dave Bennett, good morning, everybody. Okay, we're on the legislation number 0192-25. Could you read it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, at this time, we'll go ahead and have our RDC advisor, Peggy Naka, go ahead and read the legislation into the record.
Okay, this is legislation number 0192-25. Finance is final authority. It's a proposed standing committee resolution to the nomination council for the year 2025. Introduced by Vince James, co-sponsored by Vince Jesus. I'm sponsored tracking number 0192-25, an action relating to the resources and development and budget and finance committees accepting a special review of the conducted cheat chapter for the Auditor General, approving the proposed corrective action plan of the conducted cheat chapter. The corrective action plan is attached. And then there are no comments from the public review session.
Thank you. Thank you, Peggy. At this time, we do have the Auditor General here. Colleagues, can I get a motion? A motion by Honorable Simpson. I got a second.
Second.
A second by Honorable Claw. This time, are there any questions regarding this legislation? We do have the Auditor General here to go ahead and Say, good morning to Chairman Vince James. Thank you for joining us here today. We'll give him some time to go ahead and get set up. You can go ahead and have the Auditor General start the report. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning, RDC members. And this is an audit for Kindatachi chapter. It was report number 23-01, and it was completed back in 2022. So there were the scope, let me see, where was I? Audit scope is 36 months, FY 19 through FY 21. There were 14 findings reported, and this is an LGA certified chapter. And the first finding is lack of control result in an undeposited cash receipt of $3,287. Comparison of the bank deposit to the deposit cash on hand found undeposited in 2020. Review of the cash receipt process found most cash receipt tickets were missing. Tickets were posted in a batch, so it could not be determined if tickets were accurately posted. Tickets were posted up to 14 days later. Deposits were made up to a month later. And there were over 30 reversal and adjustment, which is a big problem when you're doing accounting, so that needs to be avoided. Large amount of cash were held on hand, anywhere from 1,000 to 4,800. During the field work, receipts were not posted for 7 months because of they didn't have an AA. And the second finding is without a perpetual inventory for resale items, the chapter cannot account for the hay worth $41,410. The chapter resold hay at a purchasing price. Comparison of the total hay expenditures to the total hay revenue. There was an unaccounted amount of $41,410. That this was equivalent to 3,000 bales of hay missing. And finding 3 is unauthorized bonuses were paid to ineligible chapter staff. Chapter paid themselves, the staff, in bonuses of 3,358, even though they were not eligible for it. And policies require 1 year of continuous services. There was no approved budget for the bonuses as well. Finding 4, chapter incorrectly paid the accrued annual leave hours to activate employees. Chapter paid $3,092 to the former staff who were still actively employed with the chapter at the time of the payout. Based on the policies, only upon separation of employment, an employee can be paid for those accrued leave hours. Finding 5, contrary to the policy, exempt employees were paid overtime. So overtime is disallowed. And because they are exempt, so, and a total amount of 275 was paid out for overtime. And finding 6 requires documentation support, especially due to support special duty paid to employees were not filed. Former temporary employees, former AA administrative assistants and chapter managers were paid a total of $8,500. I'm sorry, $8,005. Required documents were missing, including overtime forms and timesheets to support those hours. Finding 7, payroll taxes applicable to employee bonuses, special duty pay, annual leave payout were not withheld and remitted to IRS, and employee bonuses, special duty pay, and annual payout to former employees in the amount of $14,455 did not pay taxes withheld for the employees. There were no W-2 forms filed to verify that this income was reported to the IRS. Finding 8, wage adjustments cannot be justified with proper documents. There were 13 hours pay rate change in the review period and 7 of these changes did not have any supporting documents and approved the changes. After the review period, there were 2 more pay rate changes without personal action forms. And finding 9, employee leave reported generated by the chapter payroll system are unreliable. A sample of 14 payroll period found 7 pay periods had leave hours that were not changed against the accrued leave. Finding 10, the chapter did not verify employees met minimum job requirement prior to assigning them into the acting status position. During the review period, there were 2 instances in which the chapter was without a chapter manager and administrator was assigned to the acting manager without an application or resume to facilitate the evaluation of qualification. During the field work, the current manager also acknowledged that the office assistant was assigned to acting administration assistants without required documents and evaluation of the qualification. Finding 11, the chapter cannot account for all property, equipment, and equipment. The property inventory was incomplete and did not have all the property included. The comparison of the inventory to the risk assessment, risk management underwriter exposure summary report noted differences recorded to the value of the inventory. Property items were not tagged. There were no documents on file to assign the chapter officials or staff to authorize such use of chapter premises. Missing property items have not been addressed in accordance to the policies. Finding 12, the chapter did not verify the eligibility of the scholarship assistance recipient. The scholarship files were missing application, voter registration, transcript, acceptance letter, and proof of enrollment. Finding 13, the chapter did not verify eligibility of the housing assistant recipients. The files were missing application, voter registration, home site lease, evaluation sheet, approval and disapproval form. Recipient was not awarded within the allowable amount. And the last one is finding 14, the chapter cannot demonstrate they followed the hiring process. There were no documents to support the hiring processing. In conclusion, the chapter provided the written response to the report, corrective action plan, which was reviewed and accepted by our office, and chapter resolution in improving the corrective action plan. Thank you.
Thank you for your report. Secretary General. At this time, I'd like to give the gavel back over to Madam Chair Seuss.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Vice Chair Johnson. So with that, colleagues, do we have any questions on legislation that is here before us? And I'd like to just go ahead and allow opportunity, since we do have the sponsor, Honorable Chair James, along with his chapter local leadership that are here for possibly just introduction, since there is no questions, but maybe if the chapter president would like to just make a statement as well. So Kodoshi Shiaj, Honorable Chair James, if you want to add anything.
Chair, Seuss, other members of the Resource Development Road, legislation, Vinny 019-192-25. So thank you for co-sponsoring as well, Chair Seuss. Although the document for the issue as a client response from the Auditor General's office. Ecuador has community chief Ecuador control national chief new chapter officials Ecuador non-political chapter officials are here from Chief President Yang, I always call her, and so she is here. That's Otto, Nana, Shanana, Vice President. Verna Curley, I can study that. Otto Shamato, Robbins Shirley, Rose Shirley, Bahani Van Neko, a son, Mother, I think that's a chief, a large, but I'll leave that at the Resource Development Committee. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair James. So colleagues, I'd like to go ahead and allow opportunity for the three local chief leadership to introduce themselves, and then maybe just give some time to President Ms. Yazzie to make a statement too. Ashbila. So with that, Ms. Jones, can you give them the mic? Wow, thank you. And maybe the Vice President and also Secretary Treasurer can introduce themselves as well.
Resource Committee, and then Mr. Vince James, thank you. Vanilla Yazzie, that's who I am. I am the current chapter president. So I appreciate everything you can do to help us get through this process.
Can you go ahead and turn off your mic, and then the ladies, VP?
Okay, thank you, Shannon. Committee members, KCRDC, no Kennedy, and Fox. Of course, the King Vice President Lavina Curley, Yamshia. We came aboard on January 7th, and this kept on the corrective action plan was one of our first priorities. So I'm glad it's being addressed. Thank you. Good morning,
He said they're too close, the mic too close to them.
Oh, okay.
RDC committee members, for our legislation being put on the agenda for it to move along the process.
Oh my God. Can't even move it. Can you move to the other side, because apparently when the mic is to the speaker.
I'm Roseland Shirley, Secretary Treasurer, Hanschman, is the chief chapter. This is, going on a little over 2 years. Kizichi Ishlo Topashing, but it's on the Ada Shinamdo, Papa Aya, the Shin. Not only a time. We are requesting for the support of the committee to have the legislation passed, and that includes our corrective action plan. And also, requesting the assistance of the Auditor General staff to continue to assist us as we proceed to make all corrective actions and implement corrective actions in the future. We have been meeting on working to implement our corrective actions, and we hope to achieve everything by the follow-up visit. Video to all season the past season.
Hagoshi, Shaha, Agoshanat, Anino, Finigido, Chair James for bringing legislation 19225 before Resources and Development Committee. Colleagues, I'd like to get a motion.
Motion.
Honorable Claude, may I get a second?
Second.
Honorable Chair Simpson, thank you, colleagues. So with that, we don't have.
We already have.
Oh, we already had a motion in a second?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I do apologize. So I do apologize, colleagues. I remember I gave the gavel over to Honorable Vice Chair Johnson. Oh my God, what a Monday. I apologize. So with that, one of the things that I just want to bring forth that this committee has been discussing in regards to certified chapters that are in the process of addressing the corrective action plan, it'll die if they are in sanction status. If we need to start getting stern with chapters to take, these corrective action plans and the sanction statuses seriously. When the Office of the Auditor General gave this committee a report several months ago through the leadership of then Ms. Helen Brown, it was noted that even upon a second or a third review from the Office of the Auditor General, a lot of the chapters weren't fulfilling their corrective action plan. So that does draw concern because there are annual appropriations to the chapters. And since this is a certified chapter, one of the discussions that we've been having with Navajo Nation Department of Justice is, do we now decertify those certified chapters if they can't meet the corrective action plan or get off of sanction status within either 2 or 3 years? That is still in the discussion process. As new leadership, the chapter can fulfill in addressing the 13 findings. Kodon linige e hinat ani linige e adan hat nitle tatnas nilibe do g do ado ada book a satad yang handa nishigi dibe has ani e ku hata dilia abazania a ko belagana e nitha. Don't be circumventing the law nitha ado oba ango that the no edo ashonde hala e di beson linigit o hayudo ani e o unkik e hit nashi baka naslo and that ashonde di be has anigi big aho yos nesh ha ila e baka da okodat eldan de na be has ani dan dak so e hin hasen da hala e year a certified chapter giben nago ako akot do kodoshi e yan kinat ani en kistashi e kodo hashil sogon na haya kunzen. Ado attende DA Budget and Finance Committee bidi ninige e aja e basla. RDC e yego na gidel kedo ko e ya Nkedon hit aji hit ade don hit ada hit ade shkilta bindo hut akodo nanesh betlish ini hala e nanesh in hit behazin eben na e ya kodo dit e tratna zin a bunda dish with no so e kut ado kodosh a chapter manager in hista administrative assistant da Danish.
You're not here today.
Okay, Akoho Aishi kut a shonda na nation linigi that do say koda e na o kagi it ado e yad ade e yad na hat agin khan di liesti nigo akut an de biche il nashot at ein de e ayo nsi il kes ade e yad jok una tat ata e yad do kut an kinanish da sa no kut e yad kodo ihich Ishtane la Auditor General's Office, Joe Quagan, Linigi e Hashim Sogon he na adil kit, Hatila e yado jo che nahi benago, Kodat an le tratnas and non has a jo kut adana the kit. Benagot ashondin Linigi ba could no sendo behas ani bikaho the show adot ada. Ko e le hahazot lila. Le chapter staff do officials that you know AD ajade nishto ega AD da no dan lini gijo kudat out dan da has ako kut ela ajishi ekib na ane ebahato ba innocent so kodo e yan le hat ishi na de to chapter and chili e higi to ashon den lini yego bikede no e yoda lechida na that e chida gai ado ding chen sikesi do the computer that that of chon ego da le ben na go la ba ha ya shin ni ki in ko e ya to sat not I chen not dish nana thank you Chair Naz for bringing this legislation here before the Resources and Development Committee and we are still working with Administrative Service Center department under Jerron Charlie's leadership at ASC. So, in the hot if it's not working for you, that's what this committee needs to know. Saying and these are the areas that we can refine, Title 26, and I believe that's what Roger Brigade with Nomination Department of Justice is trying to do, trying to make the processes and the functional activities there within a chapter need to be more streamlined instead of adding additional barriers or challenges. So I just wanted to share that with you. So I do have a motion by Honorable Chair Simpson and a second by Honorable Claw. So if no questions, colleagues, I'd like to go ahead and take this legislation 192-25 to roll call vote. With that, I'll go ahead and take this to roll call vote. Honorable Vice Chair Johnson, how do you vote?
Vice Chair Casey Johnson will screen.
Thank you. Honorable Shauna N. Claw, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Chair Nez is excused. Honorable Chair Simpson, how do you vote?
Green.
Thank you. And Honorable Otto So is excused. So with that, colleagues, we have 3 in favor, 0 opposed, and Chair not voting. So with that, motion carries and the legislation has been accepted by the committee. And next stop would be Budget and Finance Committee. Ishi anda. Ado here have bagi bendan kifkono fondo kun lini eya hiche da so sendo kodo e lini gi ashonda ade beso do na te fina vai do nkik enkip na ba hoya ko here nana. Thank you. Another Honorable Chair James, thank you for the legislation. So moving forward on to, and thank you, Ms. Jones, for providing the overview for the chapter. Yeah. So going further on to number 6, old business, we have none. Number 7, receive reports. We'd like to go ahead and go back to Director Halona for vertical bridge tier 1 and 2 co-locators report. Did you send an email to us? He said he would. Mike, did you send the power or your presentation to our advisor here?
I'm trying to get connected.
Okay, did you get connected? Hagoshi?
I get connected.
Okay,
You should be connected, all those co-locators.
so with that, Mr. Malona, we will allot you 20 minutes per Title II committee rules for your report starting at 11:34 a.m.
Good morning. Otto Cat, Aiken, Madam Chair, Jesus, Vice Chair Johnson, Delegate, Honorable Delegate of Resource Development Committee. As I come before you this morning to give an update on vertical bridge on Tier 1 and Tier 2 co-locators. I'll be real brief. First of all, I guess I need to explain that vertical bridge, the contract ended last year, September 2024. Okay. So the final information that we received was that for co-locators, approximately 65 were verified that we would consider as Tier 1 national carriers, which is Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, and then some of those national carriers, if they have their own tower and the co-locator comes onto their tower, they bill them directly. So we really don't know who those carriers are. They just pay the annual fee, which is $2,000 to do that. So that would be your Tier 1s. So they don't share that information. They didn't share that information with vertical bridge. The second, local carriers, what we call local carriers, would be considered Tier 2. Smith Badley is 115 out there. ComNet is on 10. And cable telephone using new technology after using towers, mainly along I-40, Hawk, and Lupton, and that whole area there. There's 10 situated. So that what was verified as far as towers on Idaho was 859, 522 in Arizona, 274 in New Mexico, 63 are in Utah. Only 134 were confirmed with leases for billing, but you have other companies like NQA, Frontier, that do not have any leases on their towers. So they're operating out there with no leases, no telecom leases. And so that is the amount of co-location. The other co-location that we could consider co-locators is those that are putting tower equipment and antennas on buildings and so forth. So we have 5 of those. 2 are on water tanks, and then 3 are on actual buildings, which we're going to start seeing more of. So that's the report for Tier 1 and Tier 2 co-locators. Thank you.
So that concludes your report, yeah.
Oh,
Hagoshi? So with that, colleagues, I'd like to get a motion.
Motion.
Honorable Vice Chair Johnson, may I get a second?
Second.
Honorable Chair Simpson, thank you, colleagues. So with that, colleagues, do we have any questions? Let me go ahead and yield time over to Honorable Chair Simpson and Honorable Vice Chair Johnson.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, Members of City Cabinet, so we'll take the report. Now, that Tier 2 you're talking about, out of the 800 plus. And you see that out of the 800, 100 plus, you have leases, those towers. So what are you doing? I mean, how are you enforcing those other, probably some towers that don't have a lease or don't have proper authorization to do co-location? So is this something that when you report, or just do report? What is your office doing, or your division doing to address that? These co-location or towers that don't have a lease or co-location are not authorized to have co-location on these towers. So again, that's what we're trying to get to, how to address these issues. Madam Chair, RDC Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Simpson, for your question. Before I yield time back over to the presenter, Honorable Vice Chair Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for your presentation, Mr. Olona. My question on the co-location, I know a while back we did get a presentation on this, and they did state that majority of the those that are co-located are trespassing due to non-payment. And I'd like to get an update on the payments received. And it's the question that Chairman Danny Simpson just stated, if they're not paying, then they are trespassing. So I'd just like to get an update on who is all current on their payments of the co-location. Thank you.
Rashid, thank you, colleagues, for your question. So I'd like to go ahead and yield time back over to presenter Director Olona.
Madam Chair and members of the Resource Development Committee, and appreciate your questions, and they are great questions. What are we doing about those that are not? And that was one of the reasons that we commissioned Vertical Bridge, because number one, we don't have the resources. Number two, the capacity to go out and look at a tower and say, that's a co-location antenna, that's a broadcast antenna, and so forth. And so they started gathering information. However, it got cut short because November 2019, they came on. We got everything organized by February 2020. The very next month, we went into COVID. So we lost about almost 2 years out of the 5-year contract. And so, however, those that were identified, such as Frontier, we did send them an invoice. We are waiting, they have kind of come to the table and say, okay, yeah, what do we need to do? It's like, well, we need to settle it up. What we're talking about is back rent, because we're able to go all the way back. We know when that tower went up, we know when it was turned on. So annually, they're supposed to be paying $12,000, and every tower is the same way. Okay, so now they owe back rent, they owe current rent, and taxes as well. And so, and that's something that Vertical Bridge was doing, was contacting those towers and letting them know, this is the information we have. Is it correct? They want to dispute it, let's talk about it. And so that's the revenue that was generated on those towers that had back rent owed on them. And then for towers like one NTOA had, we just got pushed back and just said, no, we're not going to share with you any information. We're not going to get leases. We're Navajo owned. And so they just refused to discuss any back rent or anything. And NTOA is aware, not NTOA, DOJ is aware of these trespassers, talked about it with them. At Frontier, we had 3 meetings with Frontier and their legal people and our legal people and BIA. And so they were supposed to reconcile all that information, and then they were supposed to provide information that we gathered as to what is owed. So we just use the ballpark figure to get an invoice to them and to be able to get caught up. So it's gonna take, moving forward, it's gonna take additional resources. It's gonna take additional people to continue to verify each tower, who's all on it. And so we can get get caught up, because they expire annually. You get a whole accounting team just on top of that, to be able to stay on top of 800 or something leases, 900, everybody gets a lease. So those are some of the things that need to be moved forward. And the other challenge is regulation. There's no really regulations that were put in place all this time. And that's what we've been working on since 2016, 2017, is to get those regulations. All we have now are legislations saying that you can do this is how much it is, but the details of what happens, who's going to enforce it, what happens when you are behind, those are lacking. And that's why we're pushing to get those regulations to get done. That will change a lot of this, and the compliance will be, now we got regulations that have teeth that we can utilize to get these resident towers reconciled. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holona, for your response to my colleagues. Do we have follow-up, Honorable Chair Simpson?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of RDC, Kevin, thank you for your response, appreciate that. And it goes back to, that's a large amount of towers and other things that you just mentioned, where there's no lease in place. And right now, these are supposed to be bringing revenues to the nation. And 12,000 per tower, that's a lot of money. And we could have some entities request me to waive that or cut that in half. But to me, I don't think these entities are out there without a lease or towers or other equipment out there that you're supposed to pay. You're supposed to pay nomination, have on nomination land. They're gonna work with nomination. We should just go all out to where we make these payments. I mean, they're willing to work with the nation. RDC will probably work with them for the back pay, for taxes. We could have done something with them. We might not really get the whole amount, but work with them. But since they don't want to work with us, I think we should just go all out to recover the back pay and the taxes. And now, I just think that we just need to sit down with DOJ and see how we move forward to really enforce. And I know you talked about the regulation. I think that still is coming for the RDC for approval. But in the meantime, I know they still have to pay those fees. They have the equipment on navigation. And that's why I guess I'm going to where, is there any projection, like what is the back pay or payment that needs to be collected, and also the taxes? And what would be if we were collecting all the fees? They're all abiding by our laws to make sure that these fees have their equipment on the nation. What would be the annual revenue from all, if everyone paid according to our laws? What would be on an annual basis, but and also what are the total and also taxes? So is it possible to get those numbers? Mr. Owen, thank you, Madam Chair, Mr. RDC.
So, Mr. Alona, we had asked for your report to be emailed to us. Right now, we'd like to follow with the, data that you had shared here, and I'm just trying to write it down as fast as you were giving us information. Can you send it to me right now so I can distribute it to my colleagues? And from there, I'll go ahead and yield time back over to you to respond to Honorable Chair Simpson's question in regards to what is the projection dollar amount for if leases were all in place in terms of the current fees that is in place right now, along with the taxes that is associated with that as well. That's in numbers you have. And I don't know if, as a division director, as Honorable Chair Simpson had stated, if you had made an attempt in regards to being proactive on your part to work with Department of Justice, because I know that telecommunication regs, there's two components, and one is by the Telecom Commission, Regulatory Commission, and then there's the other one in regards to the pre and post establishment of these leases. So, and I believe that is still being refined as well. And they were supposed to, I don't know if you were here at the work session that we've had with the commissioners, with the Telecommunication Regulatory Commission, along with DOJ and I believe Land Department and GLAD were here. And they were supposed to have a internal meeting with Mr. Byron Shorty taking the lead. We haven't gotten an invite to that meeting as well. So if we can get an invite to that meeting, if it has been scheduled, in hopes that we can attend, because we'd like to get this out of the way, at least with this 25th RDC. So with that, Mr. Haluna, I'd like to go ahead and yield time back over to you.
Madam Chair, simply the presentation that has the amount that was collected and so forth, where we are at. This projection wise, the total amount, if everybody was in compliance, would be anywhere between 5 to 7 million annually. And that's set on 12,000 a year for each tower and 2,000 for co-locatees. And those are some of the rates that we've been wanting to re-entertain. In the legislation, we do have, in the regulation, the track regulation, we do have proposed rates and stuff that would more or less speak to the industry now, based on locations and everything else. So that's something that we would like to get set. And Madam Chair, we were in MTRC supposed to get a date schedule. We are waiting for that time so we can sit with them and go through areas as we were previously working with NMTRC under different leadership as to how we would be able to work on. One of the big issues was compliance, how we would have compliance and how they could go and ensure that everything's up to date, if not, who to contact immediately and not let it get away. And so, those resources, even proposing a percentage of that annual revenue to come in to ensure that we have staff that are on top of it, that are addressing these shortcomings on behalf of our telecom operators.
Agushi, thank you, Honorable Simpson, Director Alona, for your response. Honorable Simpson, do you have a follow-up? Go ahead.
No,
okay, you're good. Any other colleagues with Vice Chair Johnson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Lona, for your response, and, I'm considering a directive to issue out trespassing letters to all these that are not in compliance due to lost revenue, leases, and taxes. And the next thing is the telecom regs. Are they ready? You mentioned that the telecom regulations, understand that your department has been working on it for about over a year now. And just like to know if they're ready. And when will that draft be before RDC? Timeline on that. And also, who came up with the $12,000 price tag for co-location? I think now that inflation and everything, I think it's our turn to raise that to $24,000 per co-location. A consideration. I want to know your thoughts on that. And we also have DOJ Veronica Black Cat here. I'd like to get her thought where we're at on the regulations, the telecom regulations, and I'm pretty sure that's part of their task as well. Thank you, Joe.
Rishi, thank you for that. Honorable Vice Chair Johnson, in regards to your question, so I'd like to go ahead and yield time over to Director Walona for responses, and then also to Ms. Black Hat. So, Mr. Walona.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Bishop North Committee, Delegate Johnson. Prior to 2005, when telecom towers started, probably in the 2000, late 1990s, those towers were erected. Back then, Verizon and Alltel were the first carriers to come on to Navajo. And Verizon set up a tower on Navajo Mountain. Those first towers were assessed at $24,000 each for each tower, set up annually. And then in 2005, 2006, someone came to RDC and said, we are going to build out 4 additional towers because they got a grant to establish towers, expand telecom. So they got a grant and they said they're going to do 47. And they informed the committee at that time that to do that many towers and chart and be paying $12,000 annually was not feasible from a business standpoint, because there wasn't that many customers at that time, just a few customers. And so they were packing around phones in their vehicles, and then as technology evolved. So at that time, RDC then changed the rate from $24,000 to $12,000 for a tower lease annually. And they set co-location at $2,000 per company to locate on a tower. And so those rates have been in place since then for the last 20 years. Now it's evolving, but there's been a lot of grants that have come in for telecom carriers, a lot of incentive to build out. Such as the most recent one was FirstNet. FirstNet won a big grant after 9/11. And they were supposed to get services to all the areas where there were dead zones across the U.S. rural America, the big one. So if another emergency happened, then they would have their own dedicated lines. So, the build out has been that, and then, like I mentioned, those regulations have been still in place. And up to 2016, it was just BIA issuing, first of all, there were rights of ways. And then after that, they issued revocable use permits. And then finally, they started a telecom lease about 2014. 2016 is when they got out of the leasing side, because the general leasing regulations gave it to the Navajo Nation to develop, to approve telecom leases. So the legislation for telecom were amended, giving the authority to approve those telecom leases. The Navajo Land Department at that time. And just kind of following their land withdrawal type process without no other regulation attached to them. So that's when we started drafting regulation just for telecom. Back then, that's where we are up to today. And it's going to continue to evolve with 5G and 6G coming, and now you have a company doing satellite. So, I don't know how that technology is going to change for Navajo. But that's just a response to how those rates were set. So 24 to 12 and co-locations 2,000. So that's how it has evolved up to now. In the regulations, it's now by population. Like Winter Rock, maybe more than 12,000. Low Mountain would probably be on the lowest end, it might be only 500 because of driving force of the telecommunications. But most of it has all been built out on grant money, telecom build out money. Oh, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the RDC committee. I don't really have anything else to add other than what Mr. Halona provided, but he is correct that the initial rates were set by legislation from RDC. And the initial legislation is RCAP 25-07, which amended RCJY 98-06. And this also, like I was saying, was set by legislation. They sent the rental amount for 12,000 a year and co-locations to be set at 2,000. In terms of the regulations itself, since our last report, our director was given to set a meeting to talk about the regulations, and we do have a meeting scheduled tomorrow morning to talk about the regulations. So broadband, NNTRC, BNR, Land Department, we're all going to be there to talk about the regulations and go over certain sections. But that's the latest that I have with respect to the telecom regs. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Blackheart. So tomorrow morning's meeting is at what time?
I believe it's at
9. Is it at the DNR conference?
Yes, it is. I have 10 to 11:30.
Okay.
Oh, actually, it says Navajo Land Department.
Okay, 10 to 11:30.
But I'll get confirmation and then I'll send the information out.
Hakushi, just for information purpose, I know this committee had also scheduled the Division of Economic Development for their presentation on the amendments to their business site leasing. So maybe we'll have one of the members of the committee be in attendance at your meeting. And we'll be up at DED conference room as well. So maybe we can take a break from 10 to 11:30 just to get timeline information, because I know that's what Honorable Vice Chair Johnson had asked for, and that will give us a clear indication in regards to when we'll be expecting the telecom regulations to be final approved by executive branch, and then looking at dropping a legislation to get those telecom regs going. And so colleagues, do we have any additional colleagues for questions? Shauna, no? So I did forward that PowerPoint presentation that Mr. Halona had sent over to me in regards to his presentation this morning. And he had additionally Director Halona. Now, one of the things that I just want to share here as chair of this committee, I know that this committee is dealing with so many issues and there's so much movement. And, you know, as a division director, you were elected by the president of the Navajo Nation. I really think that you need to continue the momentum in trying to carry out a lot of these outstanding issues that the committee has been requesting. I think we've been patient. We're trying to work with all the divisions, especially with all the workloads that you all have. And then not to mention the short staffing that you have within your division. But 25th Resources and Development Committee is, we're into our tenure already, 2.5 years. I just feel like we really haven't accomplished what we set out to accomplish when we first came, you know, onto council, not to mention when we were assigned to this committee. Now, I don't think it's our job to constantly be sending emails saying, okay, you know, where are you at on this initiative? I really think that's the reason why you have department managers that were selected in these positions to carry out these certain, you know, activities. And so I do have Miss April Quinn, legal counsel online from Office of Legislative Counsel. So April, in regards to Honorable Vice Chair Johnson's request, I don't know how we would be able to write out that directive to Director Halona in regards to issuing or citing the companies or the entities that are trespassing on these with their telecom leases out there in the greater part of the Navajo Nation. Because right now it is a big concern, especially when we're talking about revenue. We're missing out on revenue between the projections of $5 to $7 million annually. So if the Navajo Nation can get these regs in place and get a processing in place, I really think it's going to be a big benefit to Navajo Nation. So Ms. Quinn, I'd like to, I don't know how we're going to structure this directive language provision, excuse me, so that we can have RDC take action on this at the next RDC meeting. If not, if we can go with a special meeting, that would have to be something that we can consider as well, as this is a very pressing issue. So Ms. Quinn, what are your thoughts in regard to the directive that Honorable Vice Chair Johnson had mentioned?
Madam Chair, April is no longer on the call.
Oh, shoot, she's no longer on the call. So we lost her. So what I'll do, Vice Chair, is let me schedule a meeting with our legal counsel and see how, with your input with this directive, that we can get issued at the next Resources and Development Committee meeting. So just know that, Mr. Halona, I mean, I don't know if this is the only way we can get, you know, tasks completed here within the divisions that we have oversight. And this is a long outstanding issue, like I had mentioned. And so upon our last discussion, I know that there was the antiquity issue that legal counsel with DNR brought up with the Telecom Act of 1980. But still, that is law that is put in place as it was stated by Honorable Claude, that discussion. We should continue to utilize that law until such time that law or that act has been amended. So we still have to carry out, and then I know that prior RDCs have put in legislations to look at the dollar amounts. And I really think that's where that proper market feasibility study should have been considered because of population density. We're putting up towers in rural communities of the Navajo Nation. And whereas, you know, the city of Flagstaff, you know, their population density per in a mile radius is quite a bit versus the Navajo Nation. So these are areas that we need to look at. And I know that there was a schedule that was attached to that draft. And the last work session we had 2 drafts. So Mr. Bitsoy sent the draft to everyone. That wasn't the correct draft. So we just need to get that in place of Shonda. So it's in Queens and Mr. Holona. So I'm just kind of reiterating some of the discussion that we had from that work session. So with that, colleagues, if no more questions, I'd like to go ahead and do you have any final comments? Mr. Holona or Ms. Black Hat? Dennis, no final comments? Vice Chair Johnson?
Yeah, just a question to the DOJ timeline on completing this telecom regulation.
I don't have, I think I would have a better understanding of the timeline after the meet tomorrow. As I noted during our last update to the committee, there were areas of the regulations that I felt kind of overlap with NNTRC's authority. So unless, you know, until we address those areas and come to agreement on language, I think most of it is fine, but there's certain areas I think still need some work. But I should have a better idea after tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you for your response, Ms. Black Hat. So with that, if we can have a colleague represent RDC tomorrow at Navajo Land Department Conference Room between 10 and 11:30 a.m., I would appreciate that. So Honorable Claw, she'll be in attendance. Thank you, Shadeja. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and take this report to roll call vote, colleagues. Did I get a motion?
Yeah.
Yes.
Myself and then.
Okay, I'm losing my, okay. So with that, I do have a motion by Honorable Vice Chair Johnson and a second by Honorable Chair Simpson. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and take this report on the vertical bridge to roll call vote. Honorable Vice Chair Johnson, how do you vote?
Vice Chair Casey Johnson, votes green.
Thank you. Honorable Shauna N. Claw, how do you vote?
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Chair Nez, excuse. Honorable Chair Simpson, how do you vote? Thank you. And Honorable Ottoso is excused. So with that, colleagues, we have 3 in favor, 0 opposed, and Chair not voting. Motion carries and report has been accepted by the committee. Otto, second one, letter B under received report, update on the service line agreement amendments. We do have Director Holona and also Ms. Veronica Blackhat with Navajo Nation Department of Justice. So we will allot you 20 minutes for an update to the committee in hopes that we're ready for legislation here soon. So you will be starting at 12 p.m.
Madam Chair, members of the Resource Development Committee. Just a real brief summary, where we're at. We started the last part of April, in Honorable Simpson, developed the as-built right-of-way legislation, and then we had a discussion, what was the best way to do that, and it was decided at the time that a amending the TAA and the service line agreements, the SLAs, would be a more appropriate way to address it. And so also we had a formal meeting with all the stakeholders, mid-June, the 13th, and I'll be sending you a copy of this report when I get done as well. It has all the dates. And that was how do we help NTUA with all the ARPA funds, so those funds can be expended in the timeline that they're allocated. And that there was concern that TAA process is holding up projects and service line agreements will hold up progress. We had a couple of follow-up meetings, and then land department started looking at some of the draft being able to do that. Continental Divide has a a service line agreement form that they use. So we started looking at that process. And then in July, we had a meeting with Mr. Robert Allen, principal attorney for DNR. And again, we went through the CFR and we looked at CFR and said, why don't we just follow the way the CFR process is? And which takes us out of the loop, really. And it's just between the utility company and the lessee or the reauthorized occupant. And that's how it's handled over in Easter with Continental dividing them. And they cross those service line agreements, what they call drop lines, as long as they're coming from the right of way. And so we start looking at amending the service line agreement, and at the time we found two legislations that have been passed. And so we looked at the two legislations. There was one in 2000, I believe, and another one in 2017. The 19, yeah, it had to be 2017, 1917. And so we looked at those and we said that those two resolutions would not allow us to do an administrative process. In our last meeting, we come up with a legislative process. We can do this and do this, and then we'll have a memo. But in the background, we still had these two legislations that were passed by RDC that gave an outline of the service line agreement. So we pulled those out and we went through and said, okay, this is gonna have to, these will have to be amended. So we sent out the draft late July 25th. We sent out the draft of the how we would do the service line agreement process moving forward. We sent out a draft, and in that draft was also a checkoff list that we would be able to follow. And so, and then Ms. Khan, legislative council, and then I sent the draft out to everyone at the end of July 29th. And so, and then we sent one to DOJ, and then Ms. Khan says, if you could send me a copy of the draft that you sent out, I can kind of start drafting the legislation language in reference to that. And then we had the first draft reviewed and it came back the 1st of August. And with some questions and comments and recommendations, the markups were done. And so August 15th, the second review aspects, after I reviewed it, I took out some of the reclamation language that's in there because it actually says it earlier, talked about they're required to do the reclamation. That stays in, but we made reference to it again, so I just strike over that language in the second draft. And then we sent that back to all the changes that needed to be made, that went back over to DOJ. And I believe, we just got it back. Did you just get it back? Okay, we just got it back. And so I think we now have, I can have this Black Hat speak about the last draft and what they put in there, what they're asking. Then that way we'll be ready to drop the legislation on it.
Good afternoon. So, the second draft would come to me, with the initial draft, there were references to the two, legislations regarding service line agreements. And the first one, was the RDC S-96 17, which specifically spoke about service line agreements. And when I reviewed this initially, I had some questions regarding the policy itself. And one of the questions I had was, how does this address, this legislation? It's not, if you guys, rescind that, where does the authority lie with the director to approve service line agreements? So that was one issue. And then the other was, I did make some, format changes. And then also, there's also reference to a service line agreement in the draft policy itself. It's very short. They also included some terms and conditions that they want utility providers to follow. I did make the recommendation that, the service line agreement itself should be amended to reflect those terms and conditions. So when the second draft came back, that was not done, and the argument is that, the utility providers are agreeing to follow the policy, but I have concerns about that because I don't know how that's going to ensure compliance if the terms and conditions are not specifically stated in the agreement itself. And then the other issue I have is the authority of the current status of the Napa Land Department Director's authority to approve service line agreements. I think it's ambiguous at this point with all the different legislations that have been passed over the years. So what I'm trying to figure out is, what is the current status? I feel that it's still in place. So it just comes down to whether, the policy is the best approach, or do we just go back and amend the prior delegation and update it? But I did reach out to Ms. Khan and April to just kind of get their input to see whether they view this the same way. But, most of the language is fine, but, those are some of the things that I would like to see clarified. So the current status of the director's authority, I still don't think it's clear because Mr. Allen did refer to RDC MA-14-24, and this was the last legislation that was approved. And in there, references to service line drops were deleted, but that was only because I think presumably because the nation itself issued service line agreements, and that it's also stated in the legislation. So that tells me that, because he was interpreting that to mean that rescinded the division director's authority. I don't view that way. I think it's still an open question as to whether which legislation governs the Napa Land Department Director's authority to approve service line agreements. So we just need to get that straightened out, and once we figure that out, I think, that will dictate how this whole policy will read and whether it will continue to move forward as a policy or whether, we just update the delegation. But so that's an issue, and I do want to see the terms and conditions that are noted within the policy to also be reflected within the agreement itself that these utility providers are signing off on.
Does that complete your report, Mr. Roman? Any question? So with that, colleagues, I do, so the 20 minutes, so I need a motion to accept this report. Vice Chair Johnson, may I get a second?
Second.
Honorable Claw. Colleagues, do we have any questions on the current amendments to the SLA that was discussed prior with the stakeholders from the executive branch side. Honorable Vice Chair Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for your presentation, Mr. Alona. So, a few weeks ago, we did pass the as-built legislation. So, there was a legislation that was passed. Yeah, amendments. Those were the, oh, okay, that was for the TA. Okay, got that confused. Okay, so these amendments to those previous resolutions need to happen prior to this as-built legislation. That's what I'm hearing.
Mr. Alona.
Madam Chair, Delegate Johnson, the legislation that RDC amended and passed a couple of weeks ago was changing TAA requirements, amending the TAA requirements. TAA tribal access authorization for distribution lines. So what we are proposing with these amendment is from that TAA now to go to the house or to the customer. That's the service line agreement, the paper agreement that they enter into. And so a utility company per CFR develops a service line agreement to come off of that TAA to serve that customer. And so that's the part that we are making amendments. So it will be a streamlined process and it will be quicker. And once they're approved, they are recorded with the land department and BIA as required by the CFR within 30 days. Once that work is finished for the withdrawal lines. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Alona, for your response. No follow-up, Vice Chair? Then, Bushy, any other colleagues with questions? Honorable Chair Simpson.
The most important thing that I see is to get infrastructure. Road development gets ugly. What's funny, everybody knows that it has, everybody knows when one has to use headline 1726. And it's just a big concern where we want to see simple. And we was hoping after June 19th meeting, we would have something in place to, and the state at this meeting, RDC took care of the TA for, offer from the projects. We're not required a resolution of chapter. We did that, passed that. And that was only, on the TA, there was only, you came to agreement, that's all was needed. So, we did offer. On the service line agreement, I'm trying to get my notes here, but called to do with footage and power line. Because the footage was for the water line too. And I think there's one thing that we also have to do. Three things in the state, and the state was alone that this can be done administratively, because everything, one of the questions was, where does the state, the power line, the service line will be 1,000 feet in water line? And we say it was done administratively. So now we got two resolutions out there that have to be amended or rescinded to make this, to make these, administrative changes to the service line. But when those, that was done, you should, when certain resolutions were brought up, or when certain resolutions were not passed. So it's just interesting, and all of these, I'm speaking for the whole RDC membership, but we all know that we're gonna get power line down. Even though from Eastern, you know, we're, certified for power line, like, city farming. But we represent the whole number of people. And we can get power line to another people, the power line provided, electricity, which is service provided by EG. I'm gonna support that. And how could we get these infrastructure provided by ETA through service line agreement? I want that to happen. Please do not get things too complicated. I know we have to follow laws and things are in place. And I think if these things are in place now after the June 19th meeting, the last meeting we had, you know, just imagine how many other people would have received our line today or the infrastructure for our line today. Probably a good number of other people. And I don't know if you heard your corporate controller. He's giving us until October 31st to say, hey, are these money going to be expended? If not, I got to start thinking about moving this money around before the money can be expended by December 31st, 2026. And most important thing is that these infrastructure are very, very important that our young people are needed. And we're all confident, Department of Justice, Office of State Council, Division of Natural Resources. Let's get this thing in place and let's introduce it to the RDC for consideration. Because I don't want the control to come back until their first or one person in 2025 and say, I got to do this right now. Now, what we tell our constituents, what we tell other people, that you're going to get your power line, you're going to get your water line. That's what we're not here for. We want to paralyze our national people. We don't have these our water, our electricity, and we have the money here. But I think the deadline, we have to use the school apply. So what could it all come? Let's not get it complicated. Let's get this thing done as soon as possible. This is something that I think we all want to make sure that this happens for another people. So my chair, I really plead with your division, your land department, DOJ, also State Council, and hope also the State Council is listening. But please come together one more time and see you guys come in with a way to get this thing, legislation drafted, and come forward to see. This can be done. It'll be great. I know you guys have a lot of work, but this money has deadline. And I think if we can get this thing done, I think EGA will put a lot of power and get the power to a lot of people. So again, I appreciate that. I appreciate you guys' hard work. I know we put a lot of work on the resources as Madam Chair stated, and the Jason, we put a lot of work in you guys. But you know, we did it for a number of people. And, sometimes, I feel bad for this. We put a lot of work on you, and we can see it done as soon as possible. But we have our key constituent on backs to Hodge power line, Hodge water line, Hodge gas line, right off here. What are you, G? But they don't know the process, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to really cut some red tape with these, our codes, our policy, our administrative policy, and all that stuff to get this into manage people. So we're not conscious of that. We see the big solicitation drafted. As soon as possible, we can do RDC. Yeah, thank you for your great work, and we appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you, RDC, and Chair Cat.
Thank you, Chair Simpson. So just going off of what Chair Simpson had mentioned, I know that when we had our last discussion, there were some critical points that was mentioned in that meeting that we wanted to address. Now, the service line distance for water and utility, they both varied, and we wanted to make that consistent. I believe for water line, it's 1,500 feet. I know electricity, the 1,200 for the service line for electricity is it 1,000? 1 mile. So if we can make it consistent, and I know that was one of the issues that was brought up, Veronica and Mike, I don't know if that is inclusive in the provision that is being amended. The other one was the 10-day turnaround period for the regulatory departments. We wanted that to be a part of this legislation. Why? The very purpose of what Chair Simpson had mentioned, we are against a timeline. I know that Controller McCabe has been having meetings with NTUA, NECA in regards to this, and I think the last meeting happened last week, I believe, if not the week before. Yeah, 2 weeks ago. And I know that he's having these meetings on a bi-weekly basis, and this is, giving him to come to a conclusion now to claw back those section dollars that wasn't, that didn't go under the 521 RRR. So if it's the delegation side that we just need to stay with, Veronica, from through your legal lens, what would be best appropriate in the interim to spend these dollars? And maybe at the same time, the SLA, however we're gonna do this, we just need to get a legislation going immediately. And I know that this was an initiative that Chair Simpson had started, so I'd like for him to sponsor that legislation. And but those are two critical areas that I wanted to bring back up. I'm looking at my notes from that meeting. I don't know if this is a time to circle back around with the internal team and see if all the areas that were noted and agreed upon mutually in that meeting is inclusive in this amendment that is being proposed right now. So, Mr. Alona, I don't know if you have a response back, or Veronica?
Madam Chair, Committee, and Delegate Simpson. I appreciate the comments. Just want to let you know that we share the same urgency with people. President, we've been going to chapters as a listening session, really, just hearing from the chapter officials, their needs, their concerns, their issues, and everything else. And water, electricity is in every chapter. We want it, we need it. And we hear it and it echoes, and we really support it. And I think once you see the draft, then once you see the service line agreement that we're proposing, it addresses all of that. There's no footage at all. The CFR doesn't, it's been changed, so there's no footage. The footage was put in by RDC back in the day. The only limitation is that to one customer for resident is 14 kV. Okay, to drop to a business or a irrigation pump, you're limited to 35 kV. Those are the limitations that are put on by by the federal government, by the CFRs. Other than that, those are, that's, we hear it, we heard it, all of that is not in there. Auto tender, no 10-day, it's like I said, we're proposing it to be between the company and the customer. I'll put it, because the lease is all say that in there. It's spelled out that they work with the utility company on a service line agreement. So we've inserted ourselves into that. So we're excited to bring those proposed amendments on the service line agreement, clarifying who has the authority to sign off, because it all it is, you just sign it now. And the work is up to the utility company to provide the rest of that information that's needed. I'll put it, so we're excited to be able to get that to you, and we will continue to work diligently and get that done and over for the legislation that we drafted. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Malona. Vice Chair Johnson. Go ahead. No, go ahead. So I was just gonna also add to this, Veronica, you brought up the fact that the department manager for land department having that authority. And since through the TAA process, we've allowed him that authority. And I think, you know, for the purpose being for expenditure purposes and trying to meet deadline with federal dollars. I guess this is an area that we could try to add in as well, to give that authority to the Navajo Land Department, department manager right now, to also sign off on those, especially if these are going to residential homes that we're talking about with SLAs. And it's on trust land, and I think fee lands are applicable to Navajo Nation. So I think that just to get that out of the way faster, you know, let's grant, you know, that particular position or department manager that authority. So I just wanted to add that. Vice Chair?
Yeah. Well, thank you, Madam Chair. Chair, I'd like to, since we have our enterprise here, and I'd like to have them respond and weigh in on this discussion here, because they are our utility company, and everything that we're wanting done, the water, the electricity, the sewer subject, everything like that is in line with this discussion. So I'd like to hear from NTUA on this, if you guys could. Oh, Chair, that's my request.
Thank you, Honorable Vice Chair Johnson. So if we could have the young ladies, maybe right here by Mr. Halona. I don't know if it's just to give a response to that. And again, you've heard the dialogues in regards to the amendment. And I believe that the both of you were also part of those discussions at DNR conference room a while back, when we were trying to streamline this whole process of SLA for our project expenditure. So since the expenditure rate was very low, we need to start spending money. $20 million a month is what we need to spend, but we haven't even got there yet. According to Controller McKay, we're still at $5 million a month. So allow the ladies opportunity, if you could just please introduce yourself, your title, and the entity you're with. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Vice Chair and members of the RDC committee. Good afternoon. My name is Rainey Nelson. I'm the Associate Deputy General Manager with NTUA.
Yeah, good afternoon, Madam Chair, Vice Chair Johnson, members of the RDC committee. My name is Judy Chavez. I'm the Assistant Manager for the DGM's office.
We appreciate this opportunity to come before you here this afternoon with regards to the projects that we're currently overseeing in how they are in relation to the SLA, the service line agreement process. As right now on the water lines, we have the initiative to 1,000 water lines to our community members. And at this time, we have reached about 50%. So we are about 500 customers that we are in the process of serving. We have 400 plus that are constructed and in service, and we have about 100 that are currently in construction. We are working to serve the full 1,000, and we feel very strong about meeting that target. However, we have found that there is some lag time with regards to the process of service line agreements. We have had projects that have been with the Navajo Nation in queue for more than 365 days. In addition to that, we have found that we have customers who are also in process more than 100 days, and certainly those that are in the process of more than 10 days. So collectively, from the water utility, we have both residential and non-residential projects that continue to be in process. As of this moment, we have about 68 that are still in the queue. And I believe those have been with the nation for more than 10 days. With the service line agreement, what we would like to focus on is the distances. As you have mentioned, Chair, we have electricity homes that we serve through an SLA agreement that are maxed at 1 mile. And we have water lines that are at 1,500 feet. And so we're working to be creative with regards to serving our constituents by way of the design. Unfortunately, in most cases, we do have to go through the formal process of a right-of-way for a TAA when we do exceed those distances. In addition to that, we also are encouraging that we limit the services per the federal CRF. We also are looking at the ability to have no consent required if we do have a home site lease. So what we're finding is a number of customers who have an established home, they have been there, but for whatever reason, they didn't file for a home site lease. So we're partnering with our community members, working with them to help them understand the process, while also taking on that initiative ourselves. So we do recognize the partnership with the Navajo Nation. They are doing what they can, given their current resources. However, we do find that we could use some assistance in aiding to our community members to get through this process a lot quicker. Thank you, Madam Chair and Vice Chair and members of the RDC committee.
Thank you, ladies, for weighing in regards to the SLA amendments that is being proposed right now. As a utility provider here on Navajo Nation, I do appreciate the information that was shared. And I think that's where Mr. Halona did address the distance part. And also in regards to the 10-day turnaround, because I know that was a concern by Deputy General Manager, Mr. Koontz. And I believe Mr. Halona did respond on that particular issue in regards to the 10-day turnaround time. So, but I appreciate the weigh-in, and I'm hoping that we're able to get a legislation drop here soon once all of the questions that are being raised by the Navajo Nation Department of Justice and even Office of Legislative Counsel through Director Halona and also land departments and the other regulatory departments, that is their responses and how they see that this would be a better practice going forward. So I appreciate your input here. So with that, colleagues, I'm hoping that we address the 500 customers that are still waiting infrastructure services to their homes across Navajo Nation. And this is all staggered into the 3 states, right?
Yes, that's correct. That's correct. So the 500 that we are working to serve, those are with regards to the water utilities, so the water lines. And those are amongst that is now nationwide. So we do have cisterns also that we're serving, and so the count that I did give you with regards to the 500 does not include the cistern services that we are also providing. And so we again are working as diligently as we can. We have been meeting, I believe we've had more than a handful of meetings since the beginning of this year. And so we would be very grateful, and I think our people would be definitely very benefiting from this new process in regards to this legislation that is going to be coming before you. And so speaking on their behalf, I'd like to urge and make sure that I'm clear in regards to the urgency with regards to this legislation that has been in draft form. It's been in draft form for some time now. And so although we are definitely pleased to see that it's moving forward, right now time is of the essence to us. So thank you.
Thank you, and I believe, you know, that was just the information that was shared with the team that is crafting up this legislation. So I do have Honorable Vice Chair Johnson with a question.
Oh, yes, you mentioned the homestead lease, that the recent homestead lease amendment that was done by RDC, or passed by RDC. And my question here is, NTUA waiting for the homeowner, the residents to complete a full homestead lease, or are you guys adhering to the homestead lease amendment to where they can, you know, work on that homestead lease and still get services brought to their homes?
We understand that the homeowner would need to have an application filled out. And so a homestead lease application filled out. We are working with community members to get them the application and get it filled out with them. And then we proceed to processing their request with the understanding that a homestead lease will be processed as well.
Yeah, thank you for that. And since I have NTUA here, Veronica, earlier during your presentation, you've also mentioned reclamation as a concern, or was it Mr. Holona, the reclamation part? So I know that, you know, the land is disturbed, and what concerns do you have in regards to reclamation after? Are you stating that you want the utility company to reseed, or if you can expound on that, Mr. Holona, I would appreciate it. Just because NTUA is here, and we like for them to hear as well.
Madam Chair, Member Resource Committee, we have it written as a rule, it's a small paragraph, that this for them to reclaim the area that's disturbed. So then there's no damage to grazing at the time that they do the construction. So they reclaim that part, they reseed it, or however they want to do it, just so the grazing permittee is aware that it's not impacted, it's just disturbed temporarily. And so it's just a good gesture to show them that that we're responsible, and that we're able to just reclaim, or because we're thinking 10 years, no, it's just real quick. The area that is disturbed to reseed it, whatever it needs to do. The part has been disturbed for the grazing portion.
Thank you.
Hagoshi, thank you for that, Mr. Halona. So just for your information, as a utility company, depending on the land, I guess, you got some rocky terrains and whatnot. I guess just to be diligent in regard to those areas, and since our grazing permittees, you know, would also bring those types of issues to the attention of the committee. So that's going to be inclusive in the, I guess, in this new provision. Now, going back to Ms. Black Hat, I had Honorable Vice Chair Johnson ask in terms of timeline in regards to when the legislation will be completed and ready for a legislation request to be dropped. What do you propose a timeline looks like?
I guess it just would depend on after I meet with Mariana. Because like I said, it's all there. There's just small areas I have concerns with. And I just want to make sure that they're interpreting it the same way I am. And then talk about like maybe the best way to do the policy or delegation or whatever. And then at that point, legislation can be drafted.
I know that staff are really busy right now, and I believe Mariana is also busy. So can we try to shoot for the end of maybe even by Thursday of this week? Is that too soon?
We can try, yeah.
So what I'll do is I'll send out an email to our chief legal counsel and Ms. Khan and April to see if they can fast track this legislation request, to see if we can get it out by the end of this week. Because again, October is already like almost 2 months from now, and it's just very mind-boggling as a leadership. Because when we go and attend these chapter meetings, our constituents think that as council that with their names being taken for either a bathroom addition or a water line or utility or a home, and if Controller McCabe given that authority through a legislation that was approved by council during summer session of 2024, and now he's taking that proactive measure to just shuffle all the funds back, and that's really going to hurt our constituents, because for some of us that travel out to the communities, we know who still lives without water and electricity, even interior house wiring, and it's very disheartening to see a lot of our people still living in these substandard living conditions. So again, as leadership, we don't want to continue to kick this thing down the road, this legislation. So Ashwin, maybe if we can see if we can meet by the end of this week deadline, in hopes that we could have Honorable Chair Simpson to drop the legislation by the end of this week. So, but I'll go ahead and send an email out just to see if they can fast track this for us on OLC side too. Thank you, Veronica. So with that, colleagues, in regard to this report that was given, I do have a motion by Honorable Vice Chair Johnson and a second by Honorable Claw. With no other questions, I'd like to go ahead and take this report to roll call vote. Honorable Vice Chair Johnson, how do you vote?
Vice Chair Kasem Johnson votes green.
Thank you. Honorable Shauna and Claw, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Chair Nez is excused. Honorable Chair Simpson, how do you vote?
Green.
Thank you. And Honorable Ottoso is excused. So we have 3 in favor, 0 opposed, and Chair not voting. And I appreciate everyone for providing a report here to the committee in regards to the service line agreement amendments. And also NTUA, thank you for your leadership and being a part of the discussion here this afternoon. Thank you, ladies. Mr. Halona and Veronica. Going on to item letter C, proposed capital improvement plan, what we know as a CIP. We do have presenters. Michelle Peters, Director of the Capital Projects Management Department. And I believe we have Ms. Jeff, who is the Senior Program Project Specialist from the Executive Office of DCD. And colleagues, the purpose of why this CIP plan is very important is when I went before Budget and Finance Committee with Acting Director Yazzie. This was one of the requests by Budget and Finance Committee. Apparently, it is a condition that is outlined in the budget manual. And Budget and Finance Committee was very concerned that we were just going to waive the CIP plan. Again, this current or upcoming fiscal year, which they felt like it wasn't favorable. Why is because the prior division director that was in there, Director Mitchell, did not bring a proposal to this committee nor Budget and Finance Committee or even the council. So it's good to know that we do have a product here, a deliverable before us. So with that, thank you to Ms. Peters and Ms. Peterson and Ms. Jeff for being here today to present the CIP plan to the committee. And we allot 20 minutes for a report, and should you need additional time, you can also request for it as well. So we'll go ahead and yield time over to you at 1:00 p.m.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, and members of RDC. First, I wanted to just present the packet that was provided to you as an overview of the CIP. Initially, the CIP was passed back in the 1900s, and it changed from CIO to CPMD. As I read through the different policy procedures and also legislation, amended legislation, it still states CIO. So some of these changes need to be made in regards to any of the policy procedures or even legislations. In the front of the packet is just a table of contents, and it goes on to the review of capital improvement programming. This just identifies when it was instated and the reasoning behind the capital improvement plan. After the 1.2, the capital improvement plan, it just states the reasoning behind it and also how the Navajo Nation assists in the planning, meaning the debt obligation, borrowing, land acquisition, major equipment purchase for vehicles, building improvement and construction, major equipment furnishing, and the planning framework. 1.3 is the capital budget, and I believe this is what was referenced by Chair Jesus when it comes to identifying funds for capital improvement, the capital improvement plan. Of course, it's not appropriated through the comprehensive budget, as you see on this page. It's adopted with the operating budget. So this year, and probably last year, I haven't received the amount from the Office of the Controller or Legislative Branch to really plan out for our capital improvement plan. The 1.4 is just steps in the process, what's eligible, what the need is, what the status, financial capacity, and the ranking system. Your number 2 is the CIP proposal process. This is just a process of how the chapters and communities and the Navajo Nation divisions prioritize and also given a deadline for projects. Working with the chapters, they are understanding when they should be providing their plans for their CIP, and that starts in January. Oh, I'm sorry, it starts in October, and then it goes to December, January, and by March, we should have a complete plan, meaning their requests of their capital improvement
wish list, I would say. And then the next page, you would have your process of the capital improvement plan. On 2.3 is your eligible projects, as I stated. And then number 3 is the capital improvement project policy and procedures. In this policy and procedure, it still indicates that we have to have a hearing committee, that we have to still vet, that we still have to work with chapters, that we still need to make sure that they're in line with the allocation of the operating budget from, which is provided by the controller and by legislative staff for the branch. Of course, we all know what the timelines are, like I mentioned, and that's stated in the policy procedure. In October each year, the chapters and programs have a need assessment. I've attached that in this packet. In December each year, the Capital Improvement Office completes an inventory, meaning the assets within the chapters, their buildings, their, anything within their withdrawal or within their compounds. In January is closeout and requesting for shortfall funding to complete some of these projects. In February of each year, everything is compiled together in regards to what the wish list is from each chapter. And notification is given to each chapter in regards to this timeline and when they're supposed to be turning in their request for capital improvement. Currently, this past year, we didn't receive any new proposals for CIP. Last year we did, so that's what we went off of when this packet was put together. And you'll find that on section 7 in your packet. In section 7, yes, section 7, it has how your chapters and your delegates, your regions, the capital inventory, the requests, the dates. Some of these dates are from 2021. So we haven't really had updates from the chapters in regards to their capital improvement plan or projects that they are prioritizing. I believe that the New Mexico, eastern New Mexico side, or even northern, there's an ICIP portal that's put out every year, and all these projects are included in those, in that portal. So we use that information when we're collecting data for the CIP. And the CIP is 6 years and ICIP is 5 years. So when we're asking New Mexico, we go out and we have our staff, Denise Copeland, who assists with reaching out to chapters to get their projects inputted into this ICIP for New Mexico. But for Arizona side, Utah, we have to go out to request for these projects that are gonna be put onto the CIP. And that's how the CIP currently has been coordinated and developed. In the last section of your packet is the CIP. I just wanted to also bring up the capital match fund. I know that chapters and delegates have turned in their requests for a matching fund. But when I turned in the matching fund request, it was required of a committee hearing. So when I read through the amended legislation for capital match, it says it's at the discretion and decision at BCD. But when I turned it in for review through the 164, it was given back to me that it was insufficient because of the hearing committee. So what I've done is restructure, which will be coming forth to RDC to, I guess, eliminate or waive the hearing committee, because that includes possibly like these NDOT, other departments or divisions in this hearing committee. But when I read the amended legislation, it doesn't state that it has to have a committee approval. So that's my presentation, and I think Ms. Peterson would have some more to talk about.
In order to gather all this information, we have set up time to meet with the chapters. And we started last week. We met, we have 8 SPPSs in ASC. So we're using those cornerstones to talk to the chapters and get information from the chapters, because they would be the ones that would also collect the data for buildings, capital assets, all that stuff under the underwriter's exposure forms. So in an effort to make sure that we have all that information too, and the community land use plan. So we met with Tuba City on August 19th. We met on the 20th with, I would say, Church Rock, Gallup area. To Thursday, the 21st, we met with Patricia, who was with Central. Or Fortifying. And then Heather's district would be the Prom Point, and she would be the higher Prom Point, like the northern Prom Point northeastern. And then today would have been Kayenta. They went ahead and moved forward and get representation from CPMD. Tomorrow is going to be Egerton's, and she would be Central. And then that's gonna be here. And then Eunice is on Wednesday, and she's gonna be White Point, so that would be western, kind of southern area. Thank you.
I also wanted to just mention that the reasoning behind the delay was, of course, we all know that there was new officials and new staff that were placed into these positions. So our continuous effort to educate and train at the chapter level, that's the reason that we schedule these meetings in these regions. And it's going to be continuous throughout 2026 to ensure that we have a capital outlay improvement plan throughout the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies, for your presentation. So colleagues, I'd like to get a motion. Honorable Chair Simpson, may I get a second? Second. Honorable Shawna Claw, thank you, colleagues. So do we have any questions with what is presented here before us, colleagues? Honorable Claw.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to the two ladies from DCD. So as I'm looking through these projects, I know that we did have budget hearings all across the 5 agencies. And during those budget hearings, our chapters were requested to complete their ICIP plans and to submit those. So based on that, I wanted to find out, what is your working relationship with the Budget and Finance Committee? Were any of those chapter ICIPs delivered to your department so that you can infuse that and have those updated? And looking at a lot of these projects here, I have a question as to how you are cross-referencing these projects with chapters that have ARPA funding. And so looking at some of these chapters and knowing that they have ARPA funding, is there a matching funding amount, or is this 100 ICIP? And again, how are you relaying that information to chapters? You stated that you're meeting with the ASC staff, and so what's the information that's being relayed from the ASC to the chapters? Are they informing the chapters that these are what you quoted as a wish list? And I think the chapters need to be given adequate information on the feasibility and ensuring that they are shovel-ready projects. However, as I'm looking, there are some chapters that have an extensive number of projects listed, and some of them require like a 404 permit with a waterway. Some are requiring a roundabout, and so it all varies. Even some are senior centers. And as you know, Navajo Nation did process a legislation which was also approved for senior centers. And I believe the directive from council was to have DCD work with Navajo Department of Health. And so on here, you're listing for senior centers, how are you cross-referencing those legislations that have already been passed and the funds that have been passed as well? And then also, if you could go ahead and include in detail. And so we have a lot of listeners that are joining us online. If you could explain the difference between an ICIP versus a CIP. And so I think that differentiation will also give our chapters the guidance necessary to understand the funding opportunities and then also the resources that are available. And as you stated, under the BIM, this was part of the capital improvement plan, had to be a part of the BIM. So what assurance do you have that you can give to the Navajo Nation that you will be meeting that particular component of the BIM in the upcoming years? As you mentioned, yes, we did have a transition of chapter officials who came on board. The onboarding began of January 2025. Most are still getting familiar with their positions. Even today, we had chapter officials that were presenting their corrective action plans. So how does a corrective action plan play into the CIP as well as the ICIP? And I think this is very important because again, this all relates back to the budget instruction manual. And so if these chapters are not able to move forward with those responsibilities of the financial fiscal management, then how is ASC going to assure that chapters are also going to be meeting the necessary requirements that are outlined in their CAP? And although you're here from the division, I think it was equally important to have a team member of ASC here so that we could also ask these questions to their team. I know that, speaking for myself with Chinle chapter, we have been bogged down with red tape from the ASC. And so our chapter, we're trying to move some of our ARPA funds. We do have a meeting later this afternoon with Mr. McCabe. And then also looking at the general funds. I think that our whole MIP needs to go through a thorough overhaul. We don't have the account codes that are necessary sometimes for these external funds as well as Navajo Nation funds. And so that too becomes a problem. I think that the Department of Justice also needs to stop and, think about the actual process versus handpicking which policies they want to enforce. And that's happened with our chapter. So I know the procurement portion has been a big issue. And even now we have, and I'm gonna jump around a little bit, but I'm gonna go to ARPA. And we have the CHID ARPA homes. And I was able to attend a meeting with Homes Direct. And they have invoices that are outstanding. So before those homes can be delivered to the chapters and to the regions, they're requesting for the payment to be made. And we went out to Anna, last week. And during our visit there, we were able to see one of the Chid ARPA homes, but the owner still hasn't received the key. And I was thinking maybe that's in regards to the payment that hasn't been made. And so I think with DCD, I don't know if you have too many hands in the cookie jar and you're not able to fully engage in getting payments out in a sufficient time so that we can meet a lot of these upcoming deadlines. To me, I think ARPA should be the priority because that needs to be expended by December 31st, 2026. And then when you bring before RDC this wish list of such a grandiose statue like this, I think that it just becomes minuscule in the priority list. That's how I see it. I think that our chapters are struggling to get their ARPA projects done. We haven't even touched on the compliance issues. I don't know what DCD's plan is as far as ensuring that, you know, the reporting to US Treasury is done in a timely manner. I have yet to see as a delegate our quarterly reporting to US Department of Treasury. I don't know if my colleagues have seen any of that, but that too plays a big role in these projects, the CIP and the ICIP. I know that some of these CIP projects are also under audit. We heard from Navajo Department of Transportation. They have their own reporting system. Some have fell short. And if that's the case with the CIP, I know New Mexico, they have their own capital outlay project funding, and those require a different reporting mechanism. So you did mention that you have new staff that are on board. And I also want to say that, you know, DCD, you took a week off from the Navajo Nation. And so when you do events that are off the reservation, which was considered mandatory, I think you should report back to your oversight committee to what was accomplished when you travel off the reservation for a whole week.
And I think the NDOT one is on. Turn that one on.
Sorry about that, the microphone went out. So I think that, you know, I'm hoping that this is the information that was gathered during that mandatory meeting. And again, it does play a role into our funding. And I want to know, how do you prioritize your capital improvement projects? Is it based on the revenue that chapters will be able to regenerate back into the community? We're facing a deficit as well as a loss in revenue. So how are we ensuring that our chapters, that these projects that we're investing to are able to generate some of the economy back into their communities? And then also, I know service providers are really key in providing necessary services to our community, and hence we have like senior centers, we have the chapter houses that are in need of funding as well. And I think that the community needs to understand that these chapter houses are central places when there's a crisis or an event that is considered an emergency status. And some chapters are nearing the end of life. I know for our chapter, we condemned our chapter house and now we're trying to get a multi-use facility. So thinking about that and then looking at my own list, you know, I think that a warehouse, a barn sale is not something that we would like to prioritize. we would like to change that. So if you could just tell me about how a chapter as well as a delegate can reprioritize this listing here, because these are outdated and, you know, it moves and it grows with the community. And like I said, you know, we did not foresee our chapter house being closed and condemned. And now, you know, that's our priority. So if I were to change that, this would be a priority for my community, would not be a sale barn, but it would be a place where the community can receive emergency services and then also for public safety. So that's just what I wanted to question, and I'll turn that back over to you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and yield time back over to the presenters for the questions that Honorable Claude had posed. Ladies?
Thank you. Thank you, Delegate Cloth, for those questions. So you asked from the beginning about how we're prioritizing and how this ICIP was developed. The development of it was based on the chapter input of their priorities for each district, each chapter. And that's what the listing you have. You're more than welcome to come in with your chapter resolutions or changes that you want to have made. So it can be made to your CIP. Like I mentioned before, there was no proposals for this year. All the chapters were giving the same information, and it's on the WIN system. So when you see the WIN system on the DCD website, it shows the same information, but you're more than welcome to come and change with a resolution or any through your chapter. The difference between an ICIP and a CIP, the ICIP is a strategic planning tool for the major capital improvement across Navajo, and that includes community leadership, all involved. When I say major projects, it means what you're planning for the next 6 years to complete and having it on our asset inventory. Of course, all projects go on this asset inventory, but when it's planning for the ICIP, it's a major planning tool for everyone across the Navajo Nation. The CIP is a public participation in these communities. Like I'm sorry, I got those two mixed up. So the ICIP for like Navajo Nation in New Mexico is for the local participation. And as I stated, for like New Mexico, they give funds for the ICIP. So those are for local participation at that level. And you asked about the accomplishments at the week out for DCD. The initiative for that was to really get our staff to engage in communication, engage in strategic planning and the betterment for our people across the Navajo Nation, because of course we work with 110 chapters and also staff within DCD. So it really had intense trainings, intense education, and providing information timelines that were necessary. For the chapter compliance and audits, I believe that would be a question that could be answered by ASC, and we can get that information back to you. When we're talking about how
Okay. I do apologize. You can go ahead.
As we're talking about the how we prioritize for like ARPA and what other funding sources. So there's other of course funding sources that are included with these projects. Some of these projects that are not on your CIP is because they're fully funded. Some of them that are still on it is because they're still needing leveraging or they're still needing, an unmet need shortfall. So I can give you a list of, which projects are falling under ARPA that are fully funded, which lists, which funding sources for the CIP, Citizen, or IHS, or any other funding source. I can give you a copy. How is the chapter gonna generate economy or funds given back to the communities? That would be based on the, I guess, building or whatever economic development plan they have within their communities or within their chapter planning. And I believe that would be an economic development question when it comes to buildings out in the communities. I believe that's all the questions that I have.
How are they checking with ARPA? Okay, so one of the questions that Delegate Claw had questioned is the CIP list that you have here of all the chapters. I know some of these chapters had secured funding through ARPA. Some of the chapters had secured funding through NDOT. Some of the chapters had secured funding through delegate region, whether it's CSN or PTF, or even DED through sales tax. Now, the question that Honorable Claw posed was, how is the department cross-referencing with these other departments under the executive branch to make sure that these projects are in the current construction process, or are they in the preliminary design phase? Not sure. So if you can make that response, thank you.
That was just, thank you for the question, finalizing it. So when we receive fundings for, let's specifically, for example, Church Rock, they had 10 priorities and they had 4 of them were on roads. So we make sure that administration and the staff, the new elected officials, have communicated with Regina Martinez and planning with NDOT, understanding that the roads were most likely an N road or if they're not county roads. So we make those are clear. If the funding comes from specifically on the New Mexico side, it goes directly to the IAGs, runs through the process, and then the lead agent will be receiving a letter, and then all that process goes through the system. For instance, if someone such as Tohatchi wants to do a substation with the Department of Public Safety, same process, they become the lead agent. We have a large, very, very large water project with several entities, and they are applying all over the place, and they are the same, and their contractor and Jason Jones, sorry, goes through that process and make sure that we sign everything. We are very diligent about getting the payments out too. We try to, make sure everything's stamped and get that out. And try not to sit on things, and then sometimes we have to come early or go late just to make sure those things are signed. So they're not waiting or sitting on someone's desk for a month. Very, 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 very big deal for us. The only one that I don't have, well, we talked about that in the previous report. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ladies. Honorable Claude, can I yield the gavel over to you?
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So colleagues, are there any other questions for our 2 presenters here? Madam Chair, floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Vice, Pro Temp Claude. So Honorable Claude did ask the question, what is the difference between an ICIP and a CIP plan? From a project management perspective, ICIP is an infrastructure capital improvement plan. It's all the infrastructures within a community based off of their needs assessment, off of their land use plan. That's how that is developed. Now, the CIP plan is it's the implementation side and the funding mechanism for the planned projects under this ICIP. So I just wanted to clarify that because I'm gonna dive a little bit deeper. First off, Ms. Peterson, as a new department manager for CPMD, which was once Capital Improvement Office, you have an exhibit that is attached to your report under item number 3 as an exhibit A. The